I know where I was going to say. Oh,
Bark, bark, bark.
bark, bark, bark. Squeak, squeak, bark, bark.
Squeaking and barking.
Squeaking and barking and howling.
Welcome to I'd Buy That for $1, a podcast about inexpensive, common, and underappreciated records that are waiting to be rediscovered. I'm your host, Sean Hartman, purveyor of gently used, slightly dusty records and medical equipment.
Ooh, one of those things is more troubling than the other.
The records?
Yes.
More of a VG plus NM kind of guy.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any of that crackle. Any scratches. I don't want to have to get up if it gets locked in the groove.
That's fair.
I'll put whatever in my body, though. I've proven that.
You just don't want it on the album covers.
Yeah. Well, I'm co-host Jeremy. I picked up an accordion at a garage sale this weekend, fellas.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You're trying to become more of an outcast?
I want to get a little less mainstream. I've been a little commercial lately, so I'm trying to get together with a buddy of mine that plays keyboard. So I was thinking we'd start a band called Radical Accordion and Keyboard Electric.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'll get away from this mainstream streak with that.
Yeah. You could abbreviate it Rake if you want.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have picked up on that. Well, I am co-host Peter Cook, and since we're going to be discussing Milwaukee on the podcast today, I thought I'd lay a few Milwaukee facts on the co-host and our listeners here.
Oh, please do.
Love a good Milwaukee fact.
Did you know that Milwaukee has certainly had its share of visitors? The French missionaries and explorers were coming to Milwaukee as early as the late 1600s to trade with the Native Americans.
I knew that, yes.
You did.
Yeah.
Maybe you've watched the source of my information. Milwaukee is an indigenous name. It's actually pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
I didn't know that.
You were not aware of that?
Wait, is this from Wayne's World?
Yes.
It's like, this feels familiar.
Alice Cooper.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, I know this from somewhere. I should know what he's doing, but it's escaping me.
Well, Jeremy, would you like to explain to our listeners why Milwaukee is relevant on this episode?
Well, that would be because we are doing a record that was made by a Milwaukee band, Head on Electric.
Hell yeah.
Is this also one of those 1972 records that we love to do?
Far from it.
Far from it, indeed. I wanted to revisit where we started this season, as we're not quite to the end of the season yet, but we're getting close. And we started the season out by playing records from the aughts and the 2010s, sort of the vinyl resurgence era, where a lot of independent artists made a bunch of records, and a lot of them just kind of fell by the wayside, including this one that I picked up for $3.
Nice. Yeah, I believe we established that we might be continuing this theme, covering newer records later on, and then we pretty much never did that the rest of the season until now. Bringing it back.
Bringing it all back. So, yeah, we did some good ones at the beginning of the season, if you're digging this, but let's hear Head on Electric and their one released album, Sleep, Slaughter, Sheep. And I just wanted to start in the first track, which is also called Sleep, Slaughter, Sheep, Side A, Track 1.
Let her rip.
1, 2, 3.
nothing like starting off your album with the most high octane song on it, right?
Yeah, that comes out of the gate swinging.
And like much of this band's music, just when you think you know where it's going, it goes a different direction.
Yeah, that's what really caught me about this album in this era that this is from.
This is 2011 or so?
Yeah, this came out in 2011, which there was a lot of like garage rock type bands happening, and a lot of them didn't do much for me, but I think this album does because it's like a much more expansive sound going on. It's not like just garage rock. There's some psychedelic elements, which is not unusual in garage rock, but there's almost like twangy, folky stuff I was picking up on.
Yeah, the chorus on that one almost seems like a melody out of the Great American Songbook or country western. I don't even know exactly how to pinpoint it. Like maybe even a Dwayne Eddy guitar lick melody.
Yeah, and it kind of jumps between like catchy, like poppy stuff to like really noisy, dissonant, screaming kind of things going on. There's just a lot of range to this album.
Definitely.
Yeah, I had a lot of similar thoughts upon hearing this album for the first time just a couple hours ago. Initially, with that first track, I was like, man, this is a weird pick from Jeremy. This is not the kind of thing I would expect him to be into and selecting for the podcast. But the more I listened to it, the more it made sense. There's a lot of interesting production. There's a good amount of pop sensibility. And yeah, like the first couple songs, I started thinking like, am I crazy for feeling like there's a lot of folk music influence going on here? And then eventually there's like the harmonica playing and some of the songs get a little more folky and less bombastic garage rock. And I was like, no, there's definitely folk music happening somewhere in here.
Yeah, there's some similarity to the album I picked at the beginning of the season, Tim Cohen, Tim Cohen's Magic Trick, and also a musician I'm a big fan of, Greg Ashley, does a similar thing where he kind of blends folk and garage and psychedelia, and it's like a concoction that I can get into.
Yeah, it's refreshing because, like you said, garage rock can often be one of those genres that really sounds kind of samey. There's albums that are just like the same track over and over again. It's one of those genres where like I'm not interested in it if it feels like the band only listens to other garage rock bands. There's a few genres that tend to be kind of very insular like that. That can be a turn off if it doesn't have a wide enough range of influence.
Yeah. It can be a very narrow-minded genre.
Yeah, another thing on here that I kind of picked up on more reading the insert with the record than I had initially noticed is that the lyrics are better than a lot of garage rock stuff that I've heard. Pretty like existential, a bit abstract, but there's just more there than I feel like garage rock borderlines on like Baby Baby kind of lyrics that don't do it for me.
Thank goodness they included the lyrics because they're borderline indecipherable.
Yeah.
Largely buried in reverb and kind of low in the mix.
Yeah, distorted. Sometimes they're screamed to where you can't hear them. Other times there's kind of like a narcotic delivery that kind of like mushes the words. And yeah, so I didn't really know what was going on lyrically until I read the insert in the album with all the lyrics.
In doing research for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't spent much time with the lyrics, but I have spent a fair amount of time with this band over the years.
Yeah, much more than I heard.
Yeah, I saw Head On Electric in Kalamazoo at the Strut. At the time, it was late 2009, well, like fall 2009, I would say. And the Strut at that point was kind of becoming one of the premier music venues in Kalamazoo. Sean would, a year or two after that, start booking there. Maybe just the following year, 2010, I think you started booking shows there, Sean, and brought a lot of stuff through.
Yeah, it was somewhere around like 2010-ish to 2012. I was doing full-time music promotion there to varying levels of success and catastrophe.
It can be a tough gig doing that, especially when you're, Kalamazoo's a mid-sized town, and we do have 3 colleges, but it can be tough to get people interested in everything that's coming through. This show was there were 2 different showrooms, concert rooms in the Strut. This was a backroom show at the Strut. For those familiar, of course, our audience well extends beyond Kalamazoo, so I don't want to get too inside baseball here, but it was...
But I was sitting at the back table on the right side. You guys know the spot.
Yeah, start naming off Kalamazoo characters I was hanging out with and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to see the local band Legendary Wings at the time, primarily because my friend Matt Meyer, who we all know, he was playing bass with them, and he did for years. He really just felt like he was a hired gun in that band, wasn't really a creative influence to my understanding, but they were a good pop punk band. They went on to have a fair amount of success and played for years from what I remember, but I think they were still relatively new at that time. So I was going to check that out, and Head On Electric were the opening band. Another band from Milwaukee, Drugs Dragons, also played. Head On Electric, they start out playing, and yeah, it's kind of garagey, and I'm watching them perform, and maybe a song or two in, I started to really notice the arrangements were interesting, and there were really good melodies buried under all that distortion and reverb. I was instantly impressed. They made a real impression on me. It was the people in attendance at that show were the Kalamazoo garage punk crowd. UFO Dictator was a forum and label at that time, and
there was some leather jackets being worn at this concert.
Yeah, a few leather jackets. And I just started to notice that there were some influences I wasn't used to hearing when I went out to those shows. And I went out to a fair amount of them. I was good friends with a lot of those folks, but it really, it struck me. Drugs Dragons performed after Head On Electric, and it was much more kind of the sleazy, rowdy fare that you might expect. Although a lot of people I know were alienated by Drugs Dragons. They're the type of band that might do some shots and throw the shot glass and break it during their set and whatnot. And I remember for years at the Strut in the bathroom, I think one of the members had scrawled some graffiti, some Drugs Dragons graffiti in there. And I think it was like Drugs Drags party time. And there was a image of a headstone with like RIP Brain written on it. And then after a while, someone had written next to it, "Please don't think poorly of Milwaukee because of these assholes." But I kind of liked Drugs Dragons. They reminded me a little bit of a party version of The Fall, like a lot of really repetitive riffage with a vocalist who would kind of chant and yell over it. And I rewatched some footage, and I stand by that. I remember everyone thought I was off base at that show when I started comparing them to The Fall. I stand by it 16, 17 years later. But back to Head On Electric, I was so impressed that I, of course, went up to them afterwards and wanted to get whatever they had available. And I believe all they had was a CDR called Purple Death Demos that had somewhere in the area of 10 songs on it. I think I sent you a rip of that to check out, Jeremy. And there were a few songs that ended up on this album a couple years later on that earlier versions of them. And I remember playing it a bit. Then I kind of forgot about them. It was a CD, and I very much went the route of many people in the 2010s and paid less attention to my CD collection and started buying more records. Flash forward to 2015, my band Boring People are playing the release show for our split 7-inch with Regular Fucked Up People. We previously recorded a Patreon episode about that split 7-inch, the creation of it, and I believe we released it to the main feed at some point. We unlocked it. We're playing in Chicago at a record store called Saki, who I believe was doing distro for Already Dead at the time. And I'm perusing the bin there, and I find that there's a Head on Electric LP now, and it's this album. So I bought it right away and took it home, put it on, heard that song we just listened to, and was blown away how much further they had come sonically from those demos. Yeah, I love this album. This is a special band. I'm glad. I was really excited when you chose it, and that reacquainted me with them, because again, I've now kind of fallen off listening to them in the past several years.
Yeah, I just stumbled on it when I was looking for modern cheap albums to do for this season, and the cover, I was like, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what this sounds like, and it sounded super cool. So I picked it up, and that's as far as my history goes with them. So
I've seen it around, and we are in the Midwest here in Kalamazoo, and they may have also been getting distro. What label is this on? We made a reference to it at the beginning. Dusty Medical?
Correct.
Which is, I believe, one of the guys from Drugs Dragon's label. I'm wondering if they were getting, Milwaukee and Chicago are kind of tied together. Those scenes can kind of match up together, connect, and I wonder if they were maybe getting distro, and that's why it was at that store as well. But I think it helped get this album around, because I have seen it around here and there.
Yeah, I really don't know what the reach of it is. As was stated in our thesis at the beginning of this season, it's not necessarily we're saying, grab this album if you see it for sure, but we wanted to encourage people to check out these albums from bands that, maybe they only existed for a couple years and stopped doing shows, so everybody forgot who they were, and now the albums are super cheap. Or explore some of these modern indie albums, because a lot of them are shockingly good.
And I was excited that, as we'll get to, you were able to find a fair amount of information on this band, because this is a deal where there wasn't much readily available.
Well, there was very little readily available on the internet. So I contacted someone from the band, Cole, who very kindly filled in a lot of gaps and provided a lot of information about this album.
Cole was the drummer?
Cole was the drummer. Cole Gentilla on drums. There was Eric Oley on guitar and vocals. And Steve Doe. We may have butchered all of those pronunciations, but it's Deau on bass and vocals. So they're a 3-piece band, but they sound like a 10-piece band because it's very loud and a lot going on and cacophonous.
Yeah, they really fill in the sound here, and there seems to be a lot of additional instruments, in particular on this version. Some of the songs that are on this that were also on Purple Death are much more sparse in their arrangements on that demo.
Yeah, and I got a lot of good info from Cole to explain some of that. Like he mentioned on that first cut we listened to, if you listen, there's an organ in there, and it was just like a broken garbage organ they literally found in the alley that they recorded it with, and Cole didn't even know how to play organ and just kind of like figured out a little melody to throw in there. So they just piled stuff on, but there's also some other interesting things going on I want to get to, but let's play another song before we get into the info I got.
All right, what's next?
I wanted to highlight some of the different sounds going on here, so I wanted to play Poison Toad next. And that's side B, track 1.
Yeah.
This is definitely the most unexpected album to feature bird songs.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing. So part of the lore I learned here is that a handful of these songs were recorded at one of their friends' parents' cabin, like out in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, that did not have like running water and was like heated by like a wood burning stove. And they went up there. So my guess would be that might be a recording from up there.
It wasn't a bird whistle
I
I was gonna
don't
say,
think
do we know if it's
or a
synthesizer, bird whistle, field recording? Come on. These are important details.
These are the things you should have asked Cole.
I know. I feel like a dunce for not asking, but my guess is it's a field recording, and given that information, I would suspect maybe from up there at that cabin. But Cole was describing the recording process at that cabin where they had the drum microphones going into a 4-track, and then they were feeding that 4-track into an 8-track that was like a digital 8-track. So the drums would take one of those 8 tracks, and then pretty much everything else had to fit in the other 7 tracks available. So for our listeners who maybe haven't recorded things in professional studios, you can record as many tracks as you want, and often there's like 40, 50 different things going on. But they were very limited in what they could input on these songs. Cole was saying that they also wanted to approach those songs differently, as the primary songwriter at the time, Eric, the guitar player, imagined the band in 2 different ways, as like a country sound and as the more like loud rocking sound. So these were like the country songs
That they were recording there
they were recording there.
in those dire circumstances.
Yeah. And you can hear the like twang to it, and kind of like it's like a folky kind of delivery, but you know, there's still like the distorted bass and the ghostly O's and a lot of the markers of kind of psychedelic garage rock blended to it.
Thumpy drums.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the rhythm is kind of reminiscent of like classic rockabilly type feel.
Yeah. Cole said he wasn't supposed to play any cymbals, and you can hear there it's just like straight drums in that track.
Yeah, on songs that he previously had been using and playing cymbals on, he was instructed not to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, that changes it up.
Yeah. And it really, I mean, I think things like that are what give this album its range. You know, there's times where different instruments sound like very small and compact and like kind of raw and stripped down. And then you'll get to the next track and they sound like huge and thundering. And there's a wide variety of sounds there.
You know who Eric's voice reminds me of when he really pushes hard?
Ooh, I have an idea, but I want to hear yours.
Kurt Cobain.
That was my thought as well, yes.
Yeah. I actually wrote down a couple artists that while listening, I was surprised to make the connections with. Like artists that I wouldn't necessarily ever say like, oh, well, if you like them, you should check out Head On Electric. But yeah, Nirvana was one of them, probably the closest in sound. Mm-hmm. The others being The Replacements, Billy Bragg, and Elliott Smith.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was watching them at that show now almost 17 years ago, I was just starting to think, you know, I'm watching this 3-piece from Milwaukee perform, and I start to think, you know, is there a little bit of Nirvana going on here? And obviously Nirvana weren't from Milwaukee, but they recorded in Milwaukee. And I started thinking that, and right about then, a friend of mine, Jason Warren, walks up to me and he just kind of said, Nirvana 2. And he did, and I didn't take that as disrespectful, just like, all right, here, you know, I can hear it here and they're doing something different with it. That's how I took it. At least that's how I was feeling. I think he meant it in that kind of way too.
Yeah, there's some of that in the voice. Some other things I was thinking listening to it. It kind of reminded me of there's an album by Liars called Drums Not Dead, and certain elements of that I could hear in here.
Mm-hmm.
Also like early Deer Tick, where it kind of blends folk with like louder garage rocky screaming kind of stuff. So
Yeah, well, I meant to mention that a lot of people, of course, think Nevermind when they think Nirvana, but the earlier stuff, the Bleach era, and some of the singles from around that time have a little bit of twang to them.
yeah.
So they kind of lost that when they went mainstream.
Luckily, Head on Electric never went mainstream. So
No, this is it's incredible, as we'll get into, how long they were a band for what their output is versus what I think is kind of laying around unavailable.
yeah, that was Cole seemed a little saddened in his email by that. He had mentioned that the band had recorded at least 7 albums worth of material other than this that just never saw the light of day for one reason or another. So, yeah, they were a band. Well, let me get into the bio of the band and then we'll add it all up.
Seems a perfect time to add it up.
So, these fellas all met each other in Pulaski, Wisconsin, which is a very small town, middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. I mentioned their names earlier, Eric, Steve, and Cole. They all moved to Milwaukee to go to college because there's no college in Pulaski. Well, I assume there's not. I guess I don't know.
If there is, it's probably a community college.
Yeah. So they all moved to Milwaukee that Cole said had a thriving scene at the time. He said there were like dozens of house venues everywhere, cool bars. He said people would show up to shows, be like packed shows on a Tuesday night there.
Yeah, this is like mid 2000s.
Yeah, this would have been around 2005 that they actually formed this band.
So really effectively pre-social media, or in the very early days of social media.
Yeah, he mentioned that too, and how, that's not that long ago, but like thinking back, it feels like forever ago now that we're just like baked in the internet and people don't go to shows as much and just hang out in their houses looking at their phones.
Yeah, even thinking back on 2009, it's like, I went out to the show because I didn't have anything. I felt like I didn't have anything better to do that evening, and was very happy I went out and witnessed what I did.
Yeah. Yeah, so this band formed because Eric and Steve actually played together in a different band. Cole said it was common in that scene as it is here in Kalamazoo. I'm guessing in most DIY scenes that people play in like multiple bands at a time.
Yeah. You learn about arranging your schedule and getting a planner by having to play in 3 or 4 different bands.
Yeah. As in my old age now, I've limited myself to just 2. So
yeah, you're not going for it like a frequent guest Ike Turner.
No, God, no. So Eric and Steve were in a band called The Kind of Jazz Music That Kills, that everybody in the band played instruments that were not their primary instrument. And they had a tour scheduled, and somebody in the band, I think he said the bass player, like did a study abroad because they're in college. And they didn't want to cancel the tour. So Cole joins the band to do the tour. And then him, Eric, and Steve are all like, dude, let's do a band, just the 3 of us. So they did. And that's Head on Electric, 2005. Cole described Eric as the primary songwriter in this time and said he was extremely prolific. He would show up to pretty much every practice with a new song, sometimes multiple new songs. as mentioned, they recorded tons and tons of material, but it wasn't until recording this album in 2010 and 2011 that they actually all felt good about how the recording came out. He said, being in a DIY scene at that time, you record with whoever has some microphones and like claims they know how to record. And
yeah, it's not like nowadays where these young early to mid to late 20s musicians have been home recording since they were like 7, and they're already expert engineers by the time they come of age. I've been seeing more and more of that. Bands could go years without properly recording themselves 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just is a lot easier now with the software to polish, anything that goes awry in the track. But so yeah, they finally got a recording they liked. As I mentioned, they recorded a few of the songs in a cabin, and then they had a buddy who had built his own studio in a warehouse, and that's where they finished off the album, which kind of surprised me because it feels like it all blends together well. I don't get the sense of like, oh, these are clearly the cabin songs.
No, it's very cohesive sounding. Out for as eclectic as it is, sometimes even within one song, it all feels very much of one thing.
Yeah, so good job, friend of theirs who mixed this.
Well, should we play another selection before we go any further?
Let's play another selection before we go any further. I want to play Blue Tar, another song that I suspect is a cabin song, but I don't know. But I like it.
And it looks like that's side A, track 4.
There's a hole, and soon I'll be a song soul. You can hear it like no judging of your plight. There's an echo, there's an echo, there's an echo against these walls. And soon it dissolves, no memory of it all. There's a sky, there's a sky, there's a sky, taken like a brand. And it's tempered in the flight, no bird on the quiet is true. Why would you cry into from the sky? There's a star, heart of mine, not too far. And they're looking at our sun, wondering if we're the only one. There's a verse, and it's bigger than the universe. They can hear every track, the guitar goodbye, that's true. Why would he cry into from the sky? There's an end just around the
Another one of them tracks with some strong country influence there.
Yeah, wearing it proudly on its sleeve there, I would say.
Just a picking and a grinning all over that.
Picking and a grinning and smearing some psychedelia on top of it.
Well, what else do we have with the head-on electric story here?
Well, there is a callback to another album we covered a very, very long time ago. Cole mentioned that when they got the final, like the test pressing for this album, and they all got together and listened to it, Eric, who didn't have much to say when they're playing it back, after the album's done, they put on Huey Lewis's Sports. And Eric says,
I thought for sure you were going to say Jimmy Spheris, but I guess Huey Lewis makes more sense.
Whoa, wow, Sean was waiting to throw that one in.
ugh. But Eric apparently responded by saying, why doesn't the album sound more like this?
Was that what they were going for?
They kind of missed if that's what they were going for. Sorry, fellas. So, as stated, they went on to record a bunch of material that never saw the light of day, including as recently as just a couple years ago. I guess they were on kind of a hiatus for a little while, and post-COVID, they wrote some more new songs as a group, and those just also didn't get released. And apparently they're broke up now for good, maybe a hiatus. Hard to say.
Yeah. Just in the last few years, right, is when it kind of.
Yeah, like not even 2 years ago, apparently. So they were together almost 20 years, played a bunch of shows,
Put out a great album,
and are going their own ways for now. Cole, who so kindly provided a lot of this information, it looks like he's moved into more like visual arts. He has a nice website showing his photography. I saw he's done some music videos for other bands in the area. So he's videographer. He said Steve is playing in a kind of honky-tonk, like old school country band called the Long Line Riders. So I haven't had a chance to go check them out yet, but that sounds potentially up my alley.
These guys are in some bands with some good names.
Yeah. And he said Eric is a father of 4, so he's probably got his hands pretty full, but is probably still writing music constantly because...
Yeah, he strikes me as one of those creative types that just keeps going, whether or not he's actually really doing anything with it. It's just going to happen.
Yeah,
it's I got the impression even that first time I saw them, this is someone who's written a lot of songs.
Yeah,
you don't have that kind of control over melody and interesting chord changes and not having like honed that craft.
True. Yeah, I've definitely met some archetypes similar to him that, they write tons and tons of songs, kind of perfectionistic and have high bar for what they want to put out in the world.
Yeah.
Which, resulted in a really great album that they put out here, but probably a lot of great stuff being held back. So release the tapes, fellas.
Unlock the vault.
Unlock the vault, fellas. Well, that's all I got on them for now. So this is the time in the episode where we ask Sean for, some recommendations on similar albums.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
First up, a band that we mentioned earlier in the episode and an album that was a runner-up at the start of the season for my modern albums selection. Legendary Wings and their 2012 album Making Paper Roses.
Great album.
Great album. Such a good pop punk garage rock album with, like, similar to this, just a surprising amount of excellent songwriting, a little bit of that like pop sensibility, great melodies buried in a lot of distortion, but yeah, so good. Maybe we'll cover it on the podcast later.
Scott Terry, Jeff Mahana, and Matt Meyer, I believe, were the lineup then.
Kalamazoo Legends, or Southwest Michigan Legends.
Legendary Wings.
Next up, an artist that played at the record store. I can't remember if it was Satellite or Corner at the time, but Obnox, 2011 album I'm Bleeding Now. Peter, were you at that show?
I don't believe so. That doesn't sound familiar to me.
It was one that I believe a friend of the show, Useless Eater, booked.
If it was 2011, it would have been Corner. Or is that just the album? That's when the album came out.
That's when the album came out. I know he had it for sale at the time. I don't remember how close it was, like if this was the tour for that album or if this was just back stock. I feel like it was that Corner record shop. I feel like it was pre the move and name change, but yeah, I bought this album there. I've seen it around a few times. It's so good. It's, noisy post-punk, but with a lot of like soul influence going on that's kind of buried underneath it all. Obnox is the solo project of one of the guys from the band Puffy Areolas.
Oh, okay. All right. Very cool.
And final selection, some friends of ours, a already dead tapes band, Trauma Harness, and their 2015 album Tried My Hardest. St. Louis group fronted by Josh Jenkins, who's been in a bunch of bands in the area. Trauma Harness rules. They're like great post-punk. They got some of that keyboard melody going on, just like this album. And yeah, that's the only one that came out on vinyl, to my knowledge. They've got a handful of other releases that came out on cassette.
Yeah. St. Louis, we're talking like 10 years ago now-ish. There was some good stuff that Already Dead Tapes was connected to out there as well.
Yeah, a lot of good bands.
Skin Tags.
Mm-hmm. Braining.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Sean. It's a trip down memory lane.
Nice.
I do feel I need to do a quick for the record about something I said earlier. I'm gonna look Wisconsin ignorant, which is bad because I have like family roots there and whatnot. But Nirvana recorded in Madison with Butch Vig Smart Studios. That's it's a little ways away from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So just had to correct that.
Thank you.
Yeah, very different vibe in Madison than Milwaukee. I gotta say, someone who has played in pretty much every Midwest town and city at this point in my life, Milwaukee might be top of the pops for me.
Yeah.
It's a great town to play in. The vibe there is similar to Kalamazoo, but sort of bigger and dirty and grittier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my all-time favorite shows I ever saw was Paul Westerberg doing a solo set with a band in 2005 and just playing both his solo material and old replacement songs. And it was to like 200 people. That was in Milwaukee. From Kalamazoo, you drive like 4 or 5 hours to get there. So it's still a reasonable distance to see a show if you can't make a Chicago or Detroit one.
That's very Midwest of you to think that.
in that way.
Just a 4-hour drive.
Yeah, well, in Kalamazoo, we've always had that. Chicago and Detroit are 2.5 hours away. They were pretty much exactly in between them.
That's true. So, yeah, that's what I brought this week, fellas. Head on Electric, Sleep Slaughter Sheep, 2011.
Dusty Medical
So
Records.
dusty.
It's so dusty. If you see it, grab it. If you don't see it, check out some of the other lost indie classics that might be floating around your record store.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. And yeah, again, it was a lot of fun to revisit this band and just kind of take a little trip down memory lane. It's hard to believe some of this stuff is getting close to being 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
What song are we going out on? I want to just say, it is funny that I think you and I, Jeremy, like a lot of the same albums, but we often gravitate towards different songs on those albums. I definitely would have picked More Sheep Than Yellow or Mean Mary. I think of those as very classic, big-time hits of Head on Electric.
Yeah, that's not where I went. I did want to get away from the like twangier ones and feature another kind of louder, more raucous one. So
yeah. Well, More Sheep Than Yellow, as arranged on this one, has harmonica and whistling on it.
True. So I went with Up to You (parentheses) Lounge.
Did you check out the Purple Death version of that?
Oh yeah, I did. So Peter was kind enough to rip his CDR and send the files, so I got to hear the the demos of some of these songs.
Earlier versions. Who knows how many times they recorded them.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool. It was kind of stripped down, I would say, compared to this album, but a lot of the basics are all still there.
But this song was a bit different on that version.
Yeah. A bit more Nirvana,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably why they call this the lounge version.
Yeah. That is side A, track 3. And I'm co-host Jeremy.
I'm co-host Peter.
And I'm co-host Sean Hartman. Check us out on Patreon.
.com/I'd buy that podcast.